All right, at this moment, we are less than a day away from the beginning of a temporary ceasefire in the Middle East.
Late last night, Israel and Hamas came to terms on a hostage release deal. The ceasefire is set to begin at 10 a.m. local time tomorrow. That's 3 a.m. Eastern time.
And here are the details. This ceasefire will last for 6 hours each day over the next 4 days. Hamas will release at least 50 women and children, and in return, Israel will free at least 150 Palestinian women and children it is currently detaining. Now, the ceasefire could be extended if Hamas releases more hostages. It's quite significant. President Biden commended this deal, saying, quote, "I appreciate the commitment that Prime Minister Netanyahu and his government have made in supporting an extended pause to ensure this deal can be fully carried out, and to ensure the provision of additional humanitarian assistance to alleviate the suffering of innocent Palestinian families in Gaza."
Our Lilia Luciano joins us now from Tel Aviv. Lilia, we know that the ceasefire is supposed to begin at 10 a.m. local time. How quickly will we actually see some of these releases?
So what's going on now? Fighting is still ongoing. The ceasefire will begin at 10 a.m., as you mentioned, tomorrow morning. And at that time, or at least, or at the earliest, or I'm sorry, at the latest, we might begin hearing about hostages being released at around noon tomorrow. So ceasefire 10, noon the latest is what is expected for the hostages to be released. Keep in mind that this first group of hostages, the first 10 to be released out of the first 50, are women and children. Children who have undergone unspeakable trauma, who knows what they have witnessed, may have had their parents killed in front of them. So just, you know, we all have to be very conscious, as you guys know, that it's not like they're going to be surrounded by cameras. So we don't know exactly if we're going to get any images of that. That is image-wise, of course. But what we know is this is what's happened in the past. They would be transported by the Red Cross across the border. We believe not the border into Egypt, but directly into Israel. So the border, Gaza, Egypt. There they would be received by specialized teams of the IDF who are trained, informed on how to deal, especially with children. So, you know, there are certain things you're not going to respond to. The children might have specific needs, so they would be able to attend to that. They would assess them medically. Then they would be taken to hospitals where they would be treated medically for whatever they needed. And at some point, eventually, perhaps within the first 12 or so hours, they would be assessed by ISS agents who are also trained and informed on how to deal and speak with the children to get information from them. So basically, they would get briefed. They would get information, so you know they would respond to some questioning, but also briefed on what information not to give out. In the past, when hostages have been released, there's been a concern security-wise that they might have released information in interviews, etc., where it's information that the government here and security forces might want to keep from disclosing publicly. Some might be released to family members, but many of the children lost their families, lost their parents. So you have to figure out at that point who they're going to stay with.
Lilia, it's such a massive diplomatic lift to get to this point, and this will be a fragile, pause in fighting if we get there. But how are people reacting in Tel Aviv to this agreement, considering you not only have the release of Israeli hostages, but Palestinians who've been imprisoned by the Israeli government?
That's right. I mean, the response here has been cautiously optimistic. You know, first of all, they're not home until they're home. A ceasefire is something that is frail and delicate and could end at any point. There's been a lot of frustration that among family members of the hostages who've said the hostages were not prioritized and things should have been done differently to put them as the #1 goal, even above destroying Hamas. Also, the government has been very clear that this is not peace. This is not the end of the war. This is a temporary humanitarian pause to allow much desperately needed aid to get into Gaza, and of course for the return of the hostages and the return of these women and children who have been detained by Israel to their homes, whether it's in the West Bank or if it is in Gaza. Look, almost half of all structures in Gaza have been destroyed. So that's a whole other story. But the response here has been optimistic, but there's still a lot of frustration and there's a lot of finger pointing at who's to blame for this having happened in the first place.
All right, Lilia Luciano, thank you.
Now, not everyone is convinced the deal is a positive development. Former U.S. National Security Advisor and U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, John Bolton, expressed his concerns to our Anne-Marie Green on CBS News this morning.
It's obviously good for the families and the hostages who are going to be released, assuming they do get released. But I'm very troubled by this deal. I think it's conceptually wrong to trade people who have been kidnapped, totally innocent people, in exchange for these Palestinian prisoners who are by and large criminals, people who have conducted, in many cases, violent assaults on other innocent people. At a ratio of 3 to 1, for every innocent person released, 3 criminals are going to be released back to the Gaza Strip. I think the pause in fighting is something that Hamas will take advantage of.
CBS News White House reporter Willie Inman is traveling with President Biden. He joins us now, as you see there, from Nantucket in Massachusetts. U.S. negotiators were integral in getting this deal through. Israel is not in communication with Hamas. This is all happening through intermediaries, including Qatar and Egypt. But how is the administration reacting, considering that Prime Minister Netanyahu says as soon as this is done, he's going to get back to fighting intensely?
Hey there, Errol and Lana. That's right. President Biden sent out a statement, as you alluded to, Errol, in support of this deal for the exchange of these hostages with those who are being detained by Israel, those Palestinians. And I want to bring up part of the president's statement to build on what you mentioned earlier, Errol. The president said, "Jill and I have been keeping all of those held hostage and their loved ones close to our hearts these many weeks, and I am extraordinarily gratified that some of these brave souls who have endured weeks of captivity and unspeakable ordeal will be reunited with their families once this deal is fully implemented." And as Lilia pointed out, some of these people have endured unsurmountable amounts of trauma. We just don't know what they have seen, what they have dealt with, and there surely will be some needs there in terms of those children, those women who are supposed to be in the first wave of those released by Hamas. But as the president mentioned in his statement, he not only supports this deal, but is waiting for it to be implemented and carried out as well.
Willie, do we know the names of any Americans that are expected to be released?
Well, the president mentioned this in his statement that a number of Americans could be released in this deal. We don't know exactly who could be in that first batch, but we do know the name of one of those Americans, a young girl by the name of Abigail Moridan. She could potentially be released in this first batch. Her parents were tragically killed in that attack, and this is something that people have been looking for, those hostages to be returned. U.S. officials have said that they're not only working to get those Americans out, but get those Israelis out as well. But of course, they're concerned. They're looking into getting those Americans out, and we could potentially see that young girl returned to her family.
And of course, there's criticism of the administration for encouraging this deal. Critics saying that any pause in fighting is really an advantage for Hamas. And Hamas also tells CBS News they don't know exactly where every single hostage is. Is the administration concerned about, while this is a positive development, the reality may end up being much different?
Yeah, that certainly is a concern that this pause, this ceasefire, this pause, humanitarian pause in fighting, if you will, could allow Hamas to regroup. That certainly is something that could potentially happen here. But a senior administration official told reporters on a briefing last night that essentially this is something that the president wanted. This is something that they have been waiting for, to get these hostages out. While there is that concern that Hamas could regroup, they mentioned that those hundreds of trucks that are also part of this deal that are coming in will be screened by the Israelis. The Israelis are the ones that are in control of their security situation there. So those hundreds of trucks that are bringing everything from fuel to cooking oil to humanitarian supplies will be screened, that official noted, and they're confident in the Israelis in carrying out that security operation. But still, as you mentioned, there is that concern that Hamas could potentially regroup with this pause.
All right, Willie Inman joining us from Nantucket with the president. Thank you.
The U.S. military says it targeted 2 more facilities in Iraq today with links to Iranian-backed militants.
Now, this comes amid growing fears that the Israel-Hamas war could widen across the Middle East. The Pentagon says the strikes are retaliation for Monday's close-range ballistic missile attack on American troops at Al-Assad Air Base. Officials say there have been some 66 attacks on American-affiliated bases in Iraq and in Syria since mid-October.
Retired Army Major and military analyst Mike Lyons joins us now. Mike, always good to have you with us. So in addition to the attacks on American-linked bases, we've also seen Yemen's Houthi forces hijack a ship and make threats against Israel-linked vessels, even though in that case it's supposedly not an Israeli vessel at all. But how concerning is all of this to you? Do you think that the Israel-Hamas war is spreading beyond Israel and Gaza? We've already seen some flashpoints, but can it be contained?
Well, I hope not. There's no question that Israel now is feeling forces on all sides. The attacks that are happening in the Red Sea are concerning. Their navy's taking care of those. So the fact that the merchant marine ships are being captured is a concern. And U.S. forces, anytime U.S. forces are attacked, the United States has got to get involved. We have to do a much better job on our deterrence. If you saw on that map, Al-Assad Air Base is well inside of Iraq. And when you look at that target there by ballistic missiles, the fact that they're coming from Shia militia groups that are funded by Iran have got Iran's fingerprints all over them. And we've got to do something and really go back to Iran. They're pulling a lot of the strings to these attacks that are taking place on American forces there. If I'm a parent of a soldier that's stationed in those bases, and this is our level of response back, I'm really concerned because it doesn't seem enough. No deterrence right now is keeping this from spreading. And I think that's the thing that we have to be really concerned about.
And as I noted, Israel doesn't have any direct communication with Hamas. So the U.S. is negotiating on Israel's behalf with Hamas, who exists with an office in Qatar, where the U.S. also has a base. I mean, it's quite complicated when you look at who all the key players are. Is it likely that these attacks on U.S.-affiliated facilities increase the pressure from the U.S. to Israel to come up with some type of agreement? Because even when the Israeli Prime Minister announced this deal, he said, we will get right back to fighting in war once the hostages are released.
Well, I'm keeping my military hat on here. This was clearly a political decision when they decided to release the hostages in this regard. So, because I'm sure that IDF commander said we can't pause for 4 days, I think there's going to be significant repercussions from doing that. And the fact that Qatar has the Hamas's leadership and we're negotiating with that person and that group there, who even knows if they have contact with the militants on the ground in Gaza. So there's lots of disconnects taking place here and lots of hope with regard to this deal. And it's clearly political on our side, the American side as well. But I don't think Israel, they're going to give this deal a chance, but I don't think they're going to stop. I think this is as soon as the 4 days are over or any time that they can start going back to combat, they're going to do that because their mission was to eradicate Hamas. And that's why I'm surprised that Hamas is even negotiating on any level because their only leverage is the hostages. There used to be an adage that said you don't negotiate with terrorists. That's clearly what's taking place here, though.
Well, Mike, I'm wondering if you think that the hostage release deal will be enough to ease some of these regional tensions. I understand your point about deterrence, but it's also a powder keg right now. And certainly the political leaders and some of the military thoughts on this is to try and tamp down the tensions. How far does this hostage release deal go towards that objective?
Well, I think in the short term, maybe, but you're not dealing with people that value life the way Western countries do. And it is a powder keg. In the north, I've estimated there's anywhere from 50 to 100,000 militia groups, Hezbollah, Shia militia groups inside of Syria, the West Bank, that if they decided to all get together and have mass communications, they really threaten Israel. They attack Israel on 3 fronts at that point. And this is exactly what the Iranians wanted. They want to fight this war by proxy. They don't want a direct conflict with the United States or Israel. And the question it gets back to is when at some point will somebody go back at Iran to make sure that they're no longer pulling the strings there. So, yeah, no question, powder keg is a great way to describe it. But we're making these assumptions that we're dealing with rational actors here, and we just haven't seen that in history to be the case.
All right, Mike Lyons, thank you.
Thanks.